What's going on, guys? If you are a longtime subscriber and a Saab fan, you'll know that I have made countless videos praising Saab and how much I love the company. Now, of course, that is still true, but at the same time, I want to offer you guys a two-sided argument here and also tell you guys some of the potential downsides of owning a Saab. So I sat and thought for a very long time and could only come up with 4 good reasons for why owning a Saab could potentially be bad. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this video. So the first potential downside of owning a Saab is expensive repairs and maintenance. Now this is a very false stereotype for the most part, because if you are someone who does all of your own work on your car, this does not apply to you. This is more for someone who buys a Saab and they don't know much about cars, or they don't feel comfortable fixing their car themselves or even performing maintenance on it. It can cost you a bit more money than owning a Chevy or a Ford or even a Volkswagen or Audi. Now, with that being said, parts themselves are not much more expensive than parts of other brands, and that is another big misconception that bothers me. By the way, I might be talking about a lot of misconceptions in this video. I did do a video on 4 big misconceptions about Saab. If you haven't checked that out, there'll be a link for it somewhere up here. Anyways, back to my point. If you are someone who does not like to touch your car mechanically or do any sort of work to it, then repairs might cost you a bit more money if something goes wrong. Now, they're more money not because Saab parts are more expensive, because as I said, they really aren't that much more expensive than other car brands, but because there are not a whole lot of shops, or especially dealers, that can confidently say, we can fix this problem with your car. Now, if it's something minor, like changing brake pads or doing an oil change, now that you could take it to pretty much any auto shop, because I mean, that's a pretty universal, repair that people do on any car, and it's the same process that would be on a Chevy as it would on a Saab. But let's say you've got a couple check engine lights, you do some research, and even if you do work on your car, you don't feel comfortable fixing it. Now, if you do not have any friends that don't know what they're doing and you're kind of stuck on your own, you might have to take it to a shop. Now, here in Phoenix, where I live, which is one of the biggest cities in the US, there's still only a handful of shops that can confidently say that they can fix your Saab. And when they do, it's usually at a pretty hefty price, because they know that, look, you don't have any other options. You've got to come to us if you want your car to stay on the road. So if you do have to take your car to a shop for repairs, then it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And that is a downside, and that's why I always recommend just try to work on the car yourself. It's a great learning tool. So the next downside of owning a Saab is that parts for specific models can be very hard to find. Now, if any of you own something like a 94X or a new generation 95, you know what I'm talking about, because I have heard stories of the back taillights on NG95s. I'm 99% sure they don't make those anymore. So if you want a set of those, it's going to cost you well over $1,000. The same can be said for older Saabs, aka like Saab 99s and older, probably even older than that. Parts for those will be hard to find, but that can be said about any super old car. Now, if you have a Saab 95 like this right behind me, Saab 93, a 900, parts will still be pretty easy for you to find, and you should be able to get just about anything that you would need. But if you do own one of those more rare, less common Saabs, it might be hard for you to find a couple parts, and if you can find them, it might be pretty expensive. So as I just mentioned, the backdrop for this video is this 2004 95 ARC wagon that my family has had since new. This thing has 243,000 miles on it, and it still runs like a champ. Driven every day, non-stop, barely has any problems, and that's why I just love these cars so much, because they're quick, reliable. I mean, there's just so many benefits of owning this car over the possible downsides that I'm discussing. And of course, the wheels. I just love the wheels on these cars, guys. The double Ys are probably some of my top 3 favorite Saab wheels. I mean, they just look so damn good. So the third downside of owning a Saab is that aftermarket support is not the best. And when I say aftermarket support is not the best, there are still a ton of aftermarket parts for these cars. I mean, you can still get full exhaust systems, a lot of engine components like rods and stuff like that, especially for newer Saabs. You can easily find those. Granted, they are a little bit pricey, but you can still get them. What I mean is there's not a huge selection. You don't have like 10 different companies that make rods for Saabs or that make this part for Saabs. So with that being said, those aftermarket parts can also be a little bit pricey. Now, of course, I'm not expecting the aftermarket support for Saab to be something like it is for a Miata, because in a way I am kind of comparing it to the Miata aftermarket arena, where there's just so much stuff because so many people modify Miatas. That's kind of unfair because that's definitely one of the biggest modification markets out there. But yeah, if you do want to modify your Saab, I mean, if you want to do just basic stuff, like if you want to do what I've done, which is exhaust intake, you know, tune, potentially intercooler, stuff like that, you'll have no problem finding all that stuff. But if you want to start building the motor, getting a bigger turbo, you know, doing stuff like that, that's where you start to have very limited options. And that can be a downside for someone who wants to have a lot of options and shop around. So that brings me to my fourth downside of owning a Saab. And this is honestly a really shitty number 4, but it is the only thing I can think of, because like I said, guys, I thought long and hard about this, and the fourth downside of owning a Saab is having to deal with the crippling and terrible depression that comes with the fact that we will probably never see a new car with a Saab badge produced again. It's just, I wake up every morning and I see a Saab and I think, I'm never gonna see a new one of these again, and that, it's just so hard sometimes. It really gets you when you think about it, and I mean, just look at it. It's so beautiful, you know, it's just so pretty. Anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap up this video. I know there's gonna be someone in the comments saying Saabs are unreliable pieces of garbage. Well, shut the hell up, because they're not. And you just got a bad Saab that was not taken care of beforehand. So, anyways, if you do have more legitimate downsides to add to this list, please leave them down below in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. I'll see you all next time.